Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnu Pavam Sabharadajikachai Stodetata Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Vishnu Pavam Sabharadajikachai Stodetata Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Gora Premanandi Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 24, Renunciation of Kardama Muni, Text 47. Ichchadvesha vihinena sarvatra samachetasa Bhagavad Bhakti Yuktena Prapta Bhagavati Gati Ichchadvesha vihinena Sarvatra samachetasa Bhagavad Bhakti Yuktena Prapta Bhagavati Gati Ichchadvesha vihinena Sarvatra samachetasa Bhagavad Bhakti Yuktena Prapta Bhagavati Gati Vaishnavis. Icha, desire. Dvesha, and hatred. Vihinena, freed from. Sarvatra, everywhere. Sama, equal. Cetasa, with the mind. Bhagavat, unto the personality of Godhead. Bhakti yuktena, by discharging devotional service. Prapta, was attained. Bhagavati gati, the destination of the devotee, going back home, back to Godhead. Purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, only by devotional service can one understand the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord. And after understanding him perfectly in his transcendental position, enter into the kingdom of God. The process of entering into the kingdom of God is Tripada Bhuti Gati, or the path back home, back to Godhead, by which one can attain the ultimate goal of life. Gardama Muni, by his perfect devotional knowledge and service, achieved this ultimate goal, which is known as Bhagavati Gati. Thus end the Bhakti Vedanta purports of the third canto, 24th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Renunciation of Gardama Muni. Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militang Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktabin. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. This is the end of a very interesting section of Srimad Bhagavatam. And this section of Bhagavatam describing Gardama Muni and Devahuti may make you wonder, because it looks like they were really into material enjoyment. And by their example, one could think, well, yeah, that's the way to go. Really get into the material enjoyment, and then at the end, you walk away from it. But you have to bear in mind, Gardama Muni and Devahuti are no ordinary persons. Otherwise, how would the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as Kapila Deva, agree to be born from Devahuti and Gardama Muni as parents? They are demonstrating the path of going through household life properly and then walking away from it. This is a different yuga you're hearing about. This is such a yuga, and you'll learn by studying this section of Bhagavatam how orderly a real human civilization is. Nothing is left to whim or chance or mode of passion, spur of the moment. Nothing is left to that. Everything proceeds in a well-designed way so that someone can make progress back home, back to Godhead. So Devahuti's marriage with Gardama Muni was arranged by her father. Her father was looking for the proper qualified person. Her father came and presented her to Gardama Muni. Gardama Muni indeed was looking for a qualified wife. He had to fulfill the instruction of his father, Brahma, who told him expand progeny. But you have to remember that Kardama Muni is a top-grade mystic yogi. And the proof of his, one proof, the material proof of his top-grade mysticism is that he was able, at the right time, to create such facilities for his wife and him to expand the population. He didn't do that at first. And that we have to remember. If we want to become inspired by Kardama Muni and Devahuti's apparent material enjoyment, first we have to remember what they were like before and what they were like at the end. Then you can start to understand that actually, during their so-called phase of material enjoyment, they were not material enjoyers. They were not ordinary persons. But it's a different yuga. And you can see that in the mystic power that Kardama Muni was demonstrating. But first, they lived in a tiny cottage by the river. Very austere, so austere that although she was such an exalted princess, she became worn down, discolored, frail and fragile. Her clothes were all rags. Her hair was all matted, skinny, emaciated, while serving her husband as he meditated on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then, when it was time for them to expand the population, as per the wish of Brahma, Kardama Muni told her, enter into the lake. And when she came out of the lake, her beauty was totally revived. She had 1,000 maidservants. She had a palace beyond anything you could imagine today. All by Kardama Muni's mystic power. And of course, you remember the flying aerial mansion as they toured the various gardens of the heavenly planets. So you may wonder about that part of the Bhagavatam. When is Krishna going to give me something even a little like that? But you see, that was Satya Yuga. We are in Kali Yuga, and the reality is everything is a struggle. Material nature is restricting the supply of resources because the population is so sinful. Because it's such a difficult time in the universe to be genuinely spiritual, Krishna has made it so easy for us that we simply take shelter of the Hare Krishna mantra. And you'll get the same benefits that the residents of Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga got. It takes a while for this to sink in, because due to familiarity, we may take the Hare Krishna mantra, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, seeing the deity, associating with devotees. We may take it in a very casual way, without having the depth of understanding that we are being handed the means to have the same result as Kardama Muni and Devahuti had in Satya Yuga, the golden age. Kardama Muni gave Devahuti 8 daughters. And they married sages for the purpose of expanding the population, as per the wish of Brahma. Karma Muni then prepared to leave home, but his wife appealed to him. You have to give me fearlessness. You've given me everything except that. I've associated with you for the wrong reason. I didn't understand your full position. I loved you for the wrong reason, she said. But now I understand. You're a self-effulgent sadhu, a great sage, a great devotee. Therefore, give me a benediction before you go. You've given me other things, daughters and luxuries, but now I understand that you can give me something that's priceless and so needed. That is fearfulness. In material existence, everyone's afraid, whether you accept it or not, whether you're conscious of it or not. What problems will tomorrow bring for the body, for your situation, for your relationships? So Devahuti is imploring Karmamuni, give me fearlessness. And that's her eloquent way of saying, give me a son. My daughter, she said, they'll all marry and go away from home, as the Vedic tradition is, that when the daughter marries, she's part of the husband's family. So Devahuti is saying, I've got 9 daughters, but they're not going to be around for long. Give me fearlessness, meaning give me a son who can give me shelter after you're gone. Because Karma Muni is ready to leave. So this request of Devahuti leads to the appearance of Lord Kapila Dev. An incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And now Karma Muni is going to leave. He's executed all tasks perfectly. He sees no need to stay around any longer. In fact, there's some details to the situation. He's thinking, I have to renounce sooner or later, so why not sooner? Furthermore, he says, I am the servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because the Supreme Personality of Godhead has taken birth as my son, there'll be some kind of vatsalya, parental relationship, and that's going to be a little confusing for my relationship as servant of the Lord, mixing in parental affection and parental superiority. I don't want to get into all that. It's an advanced point, but nevertheless, Karma Muni was thinking like that. Better I leave home and remain fixed in my conception as the servant of the Supreme Lord, without getting into the whole parental feelings, because the Supreme Personality of Godhead has taken birth as my son. With the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he's leaving now. And he's such an exalted Bhakti mystic that, as we read in the preceding verse, he began to see that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is seated in everyone's heart, and that everyone is existing on him, because he is the super soul of everyone. In other words, he saw Chirodakashai Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, super soul in everyone's heart. Not only that, but he also saw Karanadakshai Vishnu, Mahavishnu. He saw the Mahavishnu releasing the living entities from his body. So in that way, he saw the universes with all their living entities, as well as seeing the localized supersoul in every living entity's heart. But today we read some of his qualifications. Freed from all hatred and desire. As Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, Ichcha dvesha samuttena dvandva mohena bharata. Conditioned souls are overwhelmed by Ichcha and dvesha. Desire and hatred. So you might say, well, I don't hate anybody. I may have desires, but I don't hate anyone. But our original problem, as we often explain, is the desire to imitate Krishna and the aversion, the hatred for following Krishna's instructions. So we have to search deep in our heart for that psychological root. How am I envious of Krishna's instructions? And how am I trying to imitate Krishna? The Shastra describes that Krishna is nameless, formless, and inactive. Out of envy, though, someone takes that in a completely wrong way. Nameless, formless, activityless means impersonal. And by establishing the Supreme Absolute Truth as impersonal, you've got no obligations. Since when do you feel committed and obligated to something impersonal? You feel committed and obligated to a person. So it's a very appropriate maneuver for the rebellious conditioned soul to declare the Supreme as impersonal, because that leaves the world for you to enjoy. The Supreme has no hands, has no legs, but you've got hands, you've got legs. So the world is ready for you, for your exploitation. The Supreme has no eyes, can't see anything. That means you can do whatever you like and get away with it all. So it's a very convenient formula for material enjoyment. Declare don't come right out and say you're an atheist. No, just say there is the all-pervading whatever, the inconceivable all-pervading. And of course, that is the last trap of Maya, because even though you may have realization that everyone is spirit soul, that there's an all-pervading spiritual energy, Maya tricks you. Oh, so you have figured out you're not the body. Oh, you have figured out you're the Atma, and there's an all-pervading spiritual energy, Brahman. Guess what? That's you. You're it. You're one with the all-pervading energy. There's no need for you to think about subordination to Krishna when you are it. It is you. You are Brahman. This is the last trick of Maya. Of course, many of you are thinking, oh, I'd never fall for that. But you have to look at your life and see, is there any sign of this desire to imitate Krishna and to rebel against Krishna's instructions? That is hatred and desire. The most convenient way to ignore Krishna is to declare him impersonal. And even then, you try to base that delusion on Shastra. The Shastra says, Salvam Kalvidam Brahma. Everything is Brahman. That's it. We're all the all-pervading spirit. There's no need for subordination to Krishna. It sounds very old-fashioned, doesn't it? Subordination to the Supreme. People are afraid of that. Although they're so subordinate to material nature, you talk about subordination to Krishna. Oh, my God. They'll say very agitating things like, isn't it so infantile that you need to rely on another person to have meaning and purpose for your life? Isn't that very infantile? Grow up, be an adult, make your own values, make your own meanings. Maybe some of you have had someone tell you that. Don't be such an infant. Stand on your own 2 feet. Create your own meaning. Don't be a baby. Or, why do you feel the need to resolve all the intricacies of life into one singular package? Just accept that there is just a multitude of everything and anything, and that things may not be connected. It's just a complex universe full of all kinds of minutiae. And let's leave it at that. Chart your own path as you feel best. Well, why do you bhaktas feel the need to just resolve everything into one tidy Bhagavat package? Srimad Bhagavatam is giving you knowledge of the ultimate source, as much as can be known. Krishna is described as nameless because he has so many qualities, you can't get to the end of his qualities. Therefore, the Shastra says nameless. Names come from qualities and activities. Krishna has so many qualities that you can call him nameless because his qualities are unlimited. That means his names are unlimited. He's called formless because he has no material form. And inactive. Krishna is known as inactive because he has no connection to material nature. Yet he still does things, but because of no connection to material nature, he's known as inactive. So we have a very militant program for, number one, denying Krishna's glories, and number two, exploiting the material energy. If the Supreme is inactive, that leaves it all up to us to be active, right? Someone's got to act. It should be us. So we have all these conspiracies for denying Krishna's omnipotence. Just by our saying Krishna is impersonal. That's the ultimate reality. That's denying Krishna's glories. And then, as I said, the world is left to us to enjoy. And look what human beings are doing to the world in the name of enjoyment. They're making it uninhabitable. I've been explaining how human beings can be best described as flesh-covered machines for extracting and burning fossil fuels. That is actually the predominant reality. If you start thinking about how much you're interacting during the day and night with fossil fuel products and derivatives, you'll be shocked. You can't get away from this stuff. The so-called civilized human being is destroying himself, herself. All in the name of progress, all in the name of happiness, all in the name of enjoyment. How to purify that destructive spirit, that destructive tendency, how to purify that. This is why Srimad Bhagavatam is so required. It gets to the root of the problem. Itcha dvesha samuttena dandva mohena bharata. As Krishna says, all living entities are born into material existence with the propensity of desire and hate. In this way, they're born into illusion. Dandva mohena bharata. How to get to the root of that contamination? You can't do it politically. You can't do it economically. You can't do it through philosophical speculation. We're too tiny to purify ourselves. We're too tiny to transform ourselves. It's as ridiculous as listening to a 3-year-old child tell you, I'm going to make some big changes, Mother. You just laugh. Even if you have a teenager and the teenager tells you, I'm going to make some big changes, you say, well, let's see. What to speak of a 3-year-old child? You know, the child doesn't have the capacity. Similarly, we as tiny parts of Krishna don't have the capacity to deal with ourselves separately. Not possible. But what people call material progress is just a vain march forward that just increases the problems. You can't defeat material nature. You stop it one way, it comes another way. I like how Srila Prabhupada explains it. He said, you stop cancer, then along comes cancer's grandchild. It's always something, the other, on and on and on it goes. So you have to decide how you want to spend your life. Battling the endless stream of the threefold miseries, or trying to rise above those threefold miseries. And to rise above the threefold miseries, that takes purification. So that means we have to decide what's the purpose of our life and how we're going to live. This is the most important question confronting us. How am I going to live? Because bhakti is not about belief. It's not just accepting some theology or doctrine. It's about how are you going to live for the pleasure of Krishna. As weak devotees, we waver back and forth. Yes, for Krishna. No, it's not really possible, you know. We got to do what we can do, you know. As you become stronger in bhakti, you see it's possible. And you want to cleanse yourself completely. At the same time, you're patient and know that the bhakti path is progressive. The goal is gradually achieved. So this purport is telling us, Tripada Bhuti Gati, the path back home, back to Godhead, by which one can attain the ultimate goal of life. Someone was just asking me a couple of days ago. I was visiting some persons in the Dannyverk area, middle of nowhere. Anyone ever been there? It's definitely in the middle of nowhere, isn't it? So they were telling me the usual line that, all right, there's bhakti, there's Krishna bhakti, and there are other paths. So isn't it kind of arrogant to say that one path is better than another path? Sounds reasonable, doesn't it? Okay, they're paths. We accept that. We're spiritual people. Isn't that enough? We accept the existence of paths, and why should you present one path as being superior? Isn't that arrogance? And most people would, almost everyone would nod their head. Yeah, be open, appreciate everything. So I answered that just because you're able to discern that one path is better doesn't mean you have no appreciation for the other path. So first, let's make that clear. If someone is driving a brand new Mercedes, BMW, and someone else is driving a 1990 Hyundai or something, are you arrogant to say that the Mercedes, the brand new Mercedes, is better? Is that arrogance, or is that just discernment and intelligence? It doesn't mean you put down the 1990 Hyundai. It could be someone's only car that they have. But what's wrong with making distinctions? Why is that arrogance? Do you expect someone to say, well, how dare you say that this brand new Mercedes top of the line is better than my 1990 Hyundai? How dare you say that? You're arrogant. But anyone who knows about cars understands through practical analysis this is better. It doesn't mean you terrorize the persons who are driving 1990 Hyundais. So why is it automatic that by you're saying this path is better, that means you're being arrogant? Why is that an automatic? And then I pointed out, guess what? I said, paths are supposed to be leading somewhere. Oh, really? People just say the past, but they never think about, well, paths go somewhere. Why do you go on a path? To get somewhere. So what's the destination? First, know what the destination is, and then evaluate the paths. Rather than just, oh, all the paths, they just go to the same place. What's the place? I don't know, but all the paths go there. First, find out, as we're reading today, Tripada Bhuti Gati, the ultimate destination, Bhagavati Gati, the destination of the devotee. And then see, what is the lifestyle that best achieves that goal? So Srimad Bhagavatam is giving you knowledge of that ultimate attainment. And also telling you that the best way to get to that goal is Savai Pumsam Parodharmo Yato Bhaktira Adokshite Ahitikiya Pratiyata Inatma Supersediti. Pure devotional service, uninterrupted, no material motivation. That's the first class path. The Bhagavatam doesn't say this ism or that ism. It says the best way, first class dharma, is what has these characteristics. So in this way, the Bhagavatam is very impartial. So sometimes even our own devotees become bewildered, thinking, well, this devotional service is just one of the options in life. It's one possible avenue I can choose. Associating with devotees, I can take it or leave it. Why do I need the association of devotees? It's very simple. Without that sangha, we lose the ability to discriminate between material and spiritual affairs. Everything becomes hazy. When you're in the association of progressive devotees, your vision can remain sharp. Without that sangha, you become swallowed up by the material energy. Either immediately or gradually, your vision becomes coated. And as Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur points out, you can't make a distinction anymore. That critical distinction between material activities and spiritual activities. You start becoming a bit new agey. Everything is beautiful in its own way. And everyone's kind of spiritual. Everything you do is kind of spiritual. The Bhakti path is essential because it is the activity of the spirit soul, and the association of devotees is essential. We're very tiny. We can't conquer over the material energy without proper association. I remember as a young devotee in Los Angeles, this was 1976 or so. And I was talking to another devotee who used to be in the Sanskrit department, but he felt the need to move on. And so he was telling me, we were young. I was 25, he was maybe 26, and he was saying, yes, we're going to be getting into the city. I'll be working in the city, and I have a big vision. I'm going to get one or two other devotees who share that vision, and we're going to work in such a way that just like Krishna dealt with the Keshi demon, Krishna stuck his fist down the throat of the Keshi demon and suffocated the demon. So we're going to go inside the material world and then expand our fist just like Krishna did. And in this way, the Yuga Dharma will spread. So, well, that sounds very interesting. What actually happened? Of course, we're not talking about devotees who work. That's not the point. What I'm trying to convey is that this particular devotee thought, you just got to get inside the material energy. You've got to get inside material association and transform it from within, just like Krishna's fist down the throat of the Keshi demon. You ever heard this one, Josh Healbro? Well, I told this devotee, even though I was just, a 3-year devotee, I said, what happens if while you're sticking your fist into the mouth of Keshi, you get swallowed up? He said, oh, no, that will never happen. Of course, 1 year down the line, that's what happened. At first, there was the enthusiasm, the courage. We're going to go within the material energy and expand. You devotees are just huddled together in some kind of sangha. But it's a big world out there. Just challenge Maya. Just get inside it. What usually happens is, because we're not Paramahansas, we're not like Kardama Muni and Devahuti, you get swallowed up. And then the pride doesn't allow you to admit that. So you stop seeing devotees because you don't want to admit, yeah, I guess I got a bit out there. That's humiliating. So you want to keep up your profile, so you just don't come around anymore. Or you start criticizing, you start fault finding, devotees, They talk this, they talk that, but And then you disappear. And be spiritual in your own way. Which means you're swallowed up by the material energy. So even someone like Kardama Muni, who was no ordinary person, follows a very orderly and progressive lifestyle. Different stages. Now it's time for him to walk away from it all. He doesn't do it whimsically. He doesn't do it passionately. He does everything carefully. With the blessings of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who took birth as his son, he's leaving home. He's leaving his wife under the care of the son, who is Kapila Dev. All right, any questions? Yes. If someone's infested with pride, how does such a person have friendships with devotees? You look for other proud devotees. Birds of a feather flock together. Hopefully it'll be hard to find. The fact is, if we want to stay in the association of devotees, one has to be humble. There'll be misunderstandings. There'll be lack of appreciation. It's part of living in Kali Yuga. Any social interactions become sometimes problematic. That's not so much the problem with the association of devotees per se. It's just the nature of the atmosphere we live in. And of course, we become affected by that atmosphere. Either before we took up our devotional practice, or due to weakness during our practice, we still become affected. This is the age of quarrel. And how does that tendency especially manifest in the Western world? The tendency for quarrel? Who are you to tell me what to do? That's the Kali Yuga mantra. Who are you to tell me anything? Meanwhile, the material energy is beating us down, commanding us at every step. So that's pride. And then you look for others who have that pride. Yeah, right. Who are they? Who is this one? Who is that one? It's a tragedy. So how do you deal with that pride? That's the real question. By engaging in devotional service continuously, your pride will go. Because Krishna, through that devotional service, which is his internal potency, he'll arrange for your purification. But how is our purification going to come without devotional service? Tell me. It's not going to happen. So it's true that devotional service is humbling. Sometimes you're misunderstood. Sometimes you're not appreciated. Sometimes things don't work out the way you want them to work out. But what other process is there for understanding Krishna and becoming purified? So to be a progressive devotee means to be attached to the glories of devotional service through thick and thin. Commitment in the relationship. The relationship is all about service to Krishna. When we're committed, then we tolerate the minimizations that come from time to time. Kardama Muni is a liberated soul. He's free from all hatred, desire, equal to everyone. Why? What does the verse say? Freed from all hatred and desire, equal to everyone because of discharging uncontaminated devotional service. This is why Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Bhakja mam abhijanati, only by devotional service can I be understood. So we don't want bhakti to be transformed into a believing cult. Yeah, I believe in bhakti. What do you believe in? No, this is an active, dynamic, devotional service network. The more you are plugged into devotional service, the more you understand Krishna and the more purified you become. So the association of devotees is a living organism for the circulation of devotional service. Our whole society for devotees is based on devotional service. That's the currency for all the transactions is service. Anything else? Yes? Well, that's why you have the Bhaktivedanta purports, to make sure you don't think that Karma Muni was some ordinary person. He's a liberated soul. These are exalted beings in such a yuga. And look how he lived his life. For the sake of following his father's orders to create population, there was a phase of his life where he got into that. He didn't get a job. He's a mystic yogi. But still, that you could say that's work. With his mystic power, he created a griha. His work. With his mystic power, he did so many things. Now tell me, can you expand yourself into 9 Karma Munis, procreate 9 daughters who take birth the same day? Can you do that? And then walk away from it all in an exemplary way. We're just trying to chant our rounds and follow the 4 regular principles. And even that sometimes to some seems impossible. Yes? Find a service that you can dedicate yourself to and put your energies into it. Through laziness, you can't even be materially successful. What to speak of spiritually successful? If you want to escape that grip of tamoguna, laziness, indolence, sleep, inactivity, dive deep into a service for Krishna, and the purification will come, and the spiritual dynamics will start to come to the fore. Yes. That depends on each individual. You can't force anyone. Each individual has to make that decision that I want to mold my life in such a way that my greatest needs, the greatest necessities are fulfilled. Yes? It's a difficult situation when that kind of contamination sets in. And you'd have a right to think that I've got to save myself first. You have a right to think that. You have to be very expert in dealing with such persons who are going sour and blaming others. You don't add fuel to the fire. Sometimes by your saying something and trying to address the problem, they just become very angry. So sometimes you just have to back off and let time take its effect. There's no point in getting into a battle with them. No, Prabhu, it's not like that. And sometimes you just have to back off, and because you don't want to make the situation worse by putting more logs onto the fire. Even though what you're saying is right, but it may not be appreciated at this present moment. Timing is very important. Karma Muni left home at the right time. He started his opulent household life at the right time. Everything done at the right time. The intelligence for what is the right time comes from Krishna in the heart. Because the devotee is sincere, Krishna will guide you. Now's the time to say this, now's the time to say that. There's no mistake in trying. But as you become more mature, you become more expert in delivering the medicine. But you're not wrong for trying to give the medicine, but you can become better and better at administering it in terms of timing, situation, how you do it, methodology. So what you're asking about is a difficult situation. Yes. Full respect. What verse did you read that in? What is being criticized are Mayavadis who say there's nothing beyond the Brahman. That's what the intense criticism is about. Otherwise, you have Shukadev Goswami, who was Brahman realized, but he heard Bhagavatam recited by his father and became attracted to Krishna. So those kind of persons you can have full respect for. But let me tell you something. In this day and age in Kali Yuga, you're not going to find any Brahman realized persons. It's too difficult. That's why Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Klesho Dikataras Tesham. It's a very difficult path to attain Brahman realization. It can be done, but practically in this day and age, you won't see it. There are exceptions always. They're so rare that you generally don't even have to worry about it. You'll generally come in contact with what we call pop impersonalists. Just have some popular slogans. Yeah, it's all one, yeah. It all merges into the whatever. Sometimes you'll find yoga practitioners who are dedicated to an impersonal attainment. Not often, but sometimes in the yoga world you'll find that. It's all right, then you can point out. Very nice, but let's go higher. But what you're talking about in terms of criticism is against those who offend Krishna by saying the Supreme is formless, nameless, qualityless. That's it. And sometimes they'll be very charitable. You'll rarely meet these kind of persons in the West. In India, you'll meet them. They'll say, oh, Krishna, that's nice. Krishna is one of the portals to the ultimate impersonal reality. And they'll think that's being very liberal. And Durga, Shiva, Vishnu, Brahma, Ganesh, all different gateways to the unlimited, to the inconceivable. And they expect you to respect that. I told you the story about Prabhupada and the Samadarshi argument? Oh, maybe not here. So Prabhupada had spoken, he was invited to a conference on Bhagavad Gita in India. And there were many of these Mayavadis there, as usual, that's the standard. And so Prabhupada spoke very strongly. You take Bhagavad Gita as it is. Krishna says, Mam, unto me. That means me, the person. And so afterwards, the organizers of the festivals, pious Indian gentlemen, elderly, came to see him. And, Swamiji, you spoke very strongly. We appreciate your bhakti. But shouldn't we be considerate to all paths and all interpretations? Shouldn't we be respectful to different understandings of Bhagavad Gita? And of course, Srila Prabhupada told them, we speak Bhagavad Gita as it is. In so many words, we don't speak Bhagavad Gita as we would like it to be. And so then they thought they had him cornered in a very nice, humble Indian way. Swamiji, doesn't Krishna ji say, Samadarshi, see all living entities as equal? Now we know, Swamiji, that you are a great soul. So that means you must be Samadarshi. In other words, you really don't see any distinctions between all these different speakers of Bhagavad Gita and their ideas, because a Samadarshi sees it all as the same. And we know that you're Samadarshi. No, we got you. We got you cornered. And what was Prabhupada's response? Okay, then. Said in so many words, he said, I'm not Samadarshi. Wait a minute, because it's a hallowed thing in Hinduism, to be a Samadarshi. You say you're not Samadarshi? You don't mean that, really, Swamiji, please. We accept that you're Samadarshi. We're just puzzled by your criticism of these other speakers of Bhagavad Gita. And we know that you're Samadarshi. In other words, we want you to be Samadarshi according to our conception. So Prabhupada just roared back again and again. I am not Samadarshi. Krishna says this, I say it. Krishna says fools think he has a material body, I say it. I am not Samadarshi then. So they were totally bewildered. And then Srila Prabhupada changed course. He said, but I am Samadarshi in this way. I say Krishna is for everyone, everywhere in the world. That's my Samadarshi. They were caste brahmanas, so that upset them even more. They were in the brahmana by birth misconception. So then I'm Samadarshi in that I say everyone can practice Krishna Bhakti, no matter where they're born, no matter what part of the world. That's how I'm Samadarshi. That ended the conversation. So we're not giving an invitation to be rude. Sometimes devotees take that in the wrong way, that we should trample over others and declare our superiority. But you yourself have to have some discrimination. If you see someone who's enrolled in the year one at the school, you have respect. Oh, it's very nice you're in year one at the school, but you don't think the person has the same educational import at this present stage as someone who's in the university. You don't say, oh, year one in school, university level, it's all the same. You don't say that. You take more seriously someone who came up through the years and went to the university, ideally speaking. But when you talk about the yoga ladder, you're really dealing with very few persons who can grasp that. Physical yoga is just the beginning. They do exist, but don't hold your breath. And for such persons who actually understand what is Brahman realization and are open to hearing that it's just a stepping stone, all right. But how often do you meet persons like that in your line of work? Every day, huh? Right. But again, this is not an invitation for us to be rude. I remember, was it 1975 or so in Los Angeles? Guests would come for the Sunday feast, and they're all affected by pop impersonalism, spouting, it's all one, and all paths lead to the same place, and you have the Krishna gateway, someone else has another gateway. Krishna is wonderful, but he's simply an ordinary person that you can meditate on so that you develop your meditational powers so that you can approach Brahman. I remember there was this one hippie guy at the Sunday feast who was talking like that. And so he was sitting between Shesha Prabhu and myself. And each of us just got into one of his ears. What does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita? Mudha! Fools! We were right, but, we were just young devotees, but we were right. But I don't recommend going about things in that way. We were 24, 25 years old, We really gave it to him, showing our Bhakti stuff, Mudha! Yeah, you can imagine Shesha Prabhu is normally very quiet. He's on one side of the guy, into his ear, Mudha! I'm on the other side, Mudha! So we don't advocate that. Those of you who are staff at the loft know our policy is when someone starts talking like that, we just say, here, have another pakora. Put this in your mouth. And they can't say anything. Have another piece of pizza. Become one with the pizza. Anything else? Yes. A long-term what? Love of Krishna, life's ultimate goal. You want to fall in love with Krishna. That's the long-term goal. You have to love someone. As spirit soul, you can't exist alone. So how to revive your loving relationship with Krishna, which ordinarily would take countless lifetimes. But Krishna has come as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to give you the facility to do it all in one lifetime. This is why Chaitanya Charitamrita is so important. Mahaprabhu is demonstrating in action life's ultimate goal, to be madly in love with Krishna. You're reading Chaitanya Charitamrita? Okay. So you have something most wonderful to look forward to. Yes. Some persons have difficulty, yes. By associating with those who are dedicated to that. Which is easy to do if you're in the brahmacharya ashram, but not everyone stays in the brahmacharya ashram all their life, in case you haven't noticed. So then you have to be careful as a householder to make sure that you don't get overwhelmed and isolated. This is why Prahlad Maharaj uses that term, griham andakupam, the dark well. What does that mean? Is it meant to be an insult? No, it's meant to practically describe a situation in which you're in your own home, having to work, having to cope with family affairs. You can become isolated, and you could be having spiritual problems, but because you don't have the time for sustaining devotional relationships, no one knows. Or even if they know, they don't know quite what to say. Should we say something to him? Should we not? So that danger is there of becoming isolated. So therefore, Prahlad Maharaj uses that term. Because if you're walking in an agricultural field, there's an abandoned well, you fall into it, you cry out, but there's no one around to hear. It's best, as Jai Srila Prabhu and Bimala Mataji can tell you, it's best that both partners agree on the need to attain the ultimate goal of life. Then there's the possibility of becoming a powerful team for serving Krishna. In any case, you have to learn how to stand on your own 2 feet, because you come into this world alone and you leave alone. So as I always tell devotees who may be considering entering the Grihastha ashram at some point in their life, that, look, we can't promise you a Kunti or a Draupadi. We can't promise that you're going to get an Arjuna or a Yudhisthira. You have to be able to stand on your own 2 feet. We wish that you would have a Draupadi, of course. We wish that you would have an Arjuna. But we can't guarantee it. So you have to be able to take care of yourself. Yes, Jai Srila Prabhu. Jai Srila Prabhu has elucidated. All right. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.